Okay, what's gone wrong with the LA Kings this year? Their record speaks for itself, 11, 19, and 1. That's shocking. But the issues they actually have are long-standing and they've been exposed in the last 18 months. The aging team, the team is seen as slow. The average age of last year in the playoffs was 28.7 years old, so basically 29 years old. It's got older with Ilya Kovalchuk signing in the summer. He's 35. He's also out injured at the moment as well, which has affected their goal scoring. They have a lack of goal scoring. They've only got 68 goals so far, which is 31st in the NHL overall. And that is highlighted with their recent game against Detroit, where they had 42 shots and got a goal. That highlights the problem. They're shooting, they're not shooting from the right areas. They're not. There's desperation shooting rather than good, solid build-up play and working yourself in a position to take a good shot. They also had a very poor start to the season, which I think was a carryover from the Stanley Cup playoffs, where they were wiped out in the first round by Vegas 4-0. And because their lack of goal scoring is so bad, it makes their defence look poorer than it actually is with 94 goals against. So for every 2 goals they score, they concede 3. So on average, they're losing a game 3-2 every night, basically. That's the best way to describe their situation. They're losing 3-2 every night is the best way to describe, which they're not, but that's what an average would look like. They're eighth overall in the Pacific Division. All the other teams in the Pacific Division are far more competitive in the league this year. Calgary and San Jose are doing quite well at the top. Anaheim's doing quite well at the top of the division. Vancouver had a good start. They've fallen back a little bit, but their record's still far better than LA's. And Arizona, far better start this year than last year. If they can go on a run like they did at the end of last season, they're an outside bet for the playoffs. Edmonton, new coach, starting to win more than they lose now. Calgary, a lot of the teams, every other team in the division is starting to improve. LA isn't. Now, the lack of speed was highlighted last year in the playoffs. The average age was highlighted last year in the playoffs. That Ilya Kovalchuk signing, um, hmm, yeah, it hasn't worked out. Big risk with someone that old. He always had a desire to come back to the NHL. I think the way it ended in New Jersey was unfortunate, but he's just a little bit older than people realise. He's 35. Yeah, that's been a problem. Big problem. There are ways to solve this, but they're not going to be popular with some players. They're going to have to blood their prospects in the NHL a bit earlier than they would like. Possibly rotate their prospects around the lineup, give the prospects some NHL game time. That's a risk as well. That some of them won't be ready, but it's an option. Or they're going to have to trade or put players on waivers, and some of the players are on really bad contracts, and that ain't great. So there is a roster freeze before Christmas. If they make some moves before Christmas in the next week, that shows that they're not willing to give up on this season. They're still willing to compete and fight. But then technically 9 games below 500. So it's not great. If I'm honest, they've only got 23 points. That's not a great points total. St. Louis and Chicago are trying to take the record, take the prize for being the worst team in the league right now, alongside LA. So there's a couple of other teams also in this situation, and we could look at Chicago, and we could look at St. Louis. St. Louis is just a mess. It's a decent side on paper, but in practice, there's a lot of star players that don't gel. Chicago are exactly the same position as LA, aging core, injuries, a lot of injuries in LA at the moment. The goal scoring just isn't there. The defense isn't there. So I could say what is wrong with the Chicago Blackhawks. Just change the record, change a few bits and pieces of data, and it's basically the same story. But the LA Kings is more shocking. It's because they were in the playoffs last year and Chicago weren't. Chicago missed the playoffs. LA were in the playoffs. They got hammered in the playoffs. So their drop in regular season this time last year, they were real in the hunt for the Pacific Division title. They were really in the hunt for it. Now they're trying to get the first overall draft pick. This is the only thing they're going to win this year. I'll have a chance of winning is Jack Hughes. Jack Hughes doesn't fix all the problems. They need to have several young players added, several pieces added that can add speed make the team a bit younger, freshen the franchise because the core is aging and aging badly. Um, and you know the lack of pace and the lack of goal scoring is killing this team. They need to find goal scorers from somewhere. If that does mean looking at their prospects and bringing them up early just to give them some game time to help the team, so be it. But the issue is some of those prospects may not be ready for the NHL yet. Defence is another concern. They need to shore up that defence and concede less goals. So if they're not scoring many, they need to, try and get some shutouts, try and reduce the goal scoring, reduce the bleeding, and then it makes their goal scoring not look so bad. If they win every other game now from here to the end of the season 1-0, I think LA fans will be happy with that because they're winning games. At the moment, they're losing by 2 or 3 goals a night. And on average, they're scoring 2, they're conceding 3 on average. And last night they lost 3-1. So that's sort of making sense, is that they score goals, but they concede more. But they're not scoring many. So they might get 1 or 2 a game and then concede 3 or 4 or 5. And that's happened a lot this season. It's fixable. It's a difficult fix. And this comes down not to Willie Desjardins being the interim coach, or Stevens being his predecessor, or even Daryl Sutter. It comes down to the team management, like the GM, assistant GM, director of hockey operations, all the stuff behind the scenes. This is on them as well, especially that Ilya Kovalchuk contract, considering that he's out injured with a severe ankle injury right now. Older players are more injury prone than younger players. A younger player can have like a thigh strain and take a couple of weeks out or a week out, relax. Older player, that might be 3-4 weeks because your body takes longer to heal the older you get. So that was a big risk, and that risk is not paying off. It's backfiring. But there we go. That's my little look at what's gone wrong with the LA Kings. It's quite simple, really. They need to get younger and faster and find a goal scorer who can stay fit, or a whole team of goal scorers who can stay fit, and find a new defence. Pretty simple, really. They need to freshen up their defence, bring 1 or 2 new defencemen in, freshen up the defence, make the current players there want to fight for their position and improve that intensity. Goal scoring, again, bring 1 or 2 fresh faces in, maybe from their prospects, and make the players there fight for their position, and that will hopefully encourage players to play better. They need to freshen it up a little bit in the short term. In the long term, they need to do some trades, get rid of some of these bad contracts if that's possible. Try and trade some players out if they can. Try and freshen up the lineup in the long term. But in the short term, I can see their prospect pool and the waiver wire being used to refreshen the team, because there's so many players on long term injured reserve. They're going to have to use the waiver wires and the prospect pool to try and get this team at least to 500. I think will be a successful season at this point, because they are losing ground to the rest of the division. Division is a weak division, which means they're further out of the playoffs than anyone would have anticipated. The playoffs, I think, are out of reach at this point. They're not making playoffs. They're not making the playoffs. Let's be honest, they are well out of playoff contention. I think their goal is to try and reach 500 and have some respectability at this point. But there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Place your comments below, and I'll have some more videos for you soon.